Okay, good morning. My name is StephanieCassell, and as she said, I'm from Jenkins Middle High School, and I'm here to talk about a project-based learning unit I did with my 9th and 10th grade classes. Go ahead. I titled it Appalachia, Where Am I From and Where Are We Going? The problem that caused me to have the idea to start to apply for this grant, last year, a group of folks from the Apple shop came to interview some of my students for some input about another project they were working on. And they wanted them to brainstorm. I think the question was, what comes to mind when you think of Jenkins? And they wanted to, make posters with a great big list. And, at the end of the brainstorming session, almost all of the images that they came up with were very negative. It was mostly things like pills, drugs, rundown buildings. And I kind of realized that our students, a lot of times because we are in an area of economic decline, our students just have a kind of a negative perception of where they're from due to the economy right now, and as well as the way that Appalachia tends to be stereotyped in the media. And it is true that we do have a lot of social problems that are associated with poverty, as a result of that economic decline. But I kind of realized, some of them, said that they really don't see themselves going anywhere. Or if they do, they have these, dreams of, far-fetched dreams about, well, I might go to UK, but they don't really have a plan how to get there. So I just felt it was important for them to really have a more realistic look at where they are from and all the great things that are going on in Appalachia right now in spite of the kind of local or regional economic depression. Okay. Another comment that I hear a lot from students, we are a very small independent school system. We have fewer than 500 students in our whole district. There's only a couple hundred at our school, and as a result, we don't compete very well in sports, so our students are kind of, not used to being winners a lot of times. And we hear this comment over and over, this is just Jenkins, that they, really kind of have lowered expectations for themselves. So to address the problem, I kind of took a three-pronged approach. First, I wanted to focus on the past. Identifying the ideals of Appalachia, recognizing the strengths, and trying to kind of develop in them a pride by forcing them to look at what is good in Appalachia and in Jenkins. Then the present, we ended up reading some novels by contemporary Appalachian authors. I know a lot of times that kids think that authors are these people who lived, 200 years ago, because sometimes that's what's taught in our literature textbooks. But we looked at some authors that are actually writing right now. Silas House, who is originally from not far from our area, was one of them. And some of those novels that we read also talked about places in the area and some of the issues that are going on. I know one of them touched a lot on mountaintop removal mining. And even though I had told them that these were by regional authors, they were still, really surprised when they would hear Pikeville mentioned in the, in the text. And then the future, I thought it was important for them to realize what some realistic solutions are for reviving our economy and the culture of our area. We started off kind of the past part by using Georgella Lyon. It was our Kentucky Poet Laureate last year, 2016, and I actually talked to her at a workshop I attended last summer about a Where I'm From project that she had implemented for the state of Kentucky last year. And even though we didn't get to do it in the 2016 calendar year, we still decided to take part in it. But she was asking for students from every county in Kentucky to write Where I'm From poems. And I've actually done these. I'm sure every if anybody's an English teacher in here, I see somebody nodding their head. This Where I'm From poem that George L. Lyon wrote, I'm not sure when, but it's been around for a long time, and it has been a model that has just taken off, and probably all around the world. And if you go online, you can see literally thousands and thousands of Where I'm From poems. And as a model for students, they always turn out really great, because if you tell students, write a poem, they're going to write something, about love or death or something. But when you follow this model, I don't care who you are or what your life is like, when you focus on all those sensory details, copying her model, the poems always turn out really great. I'm sorry, there was one more. Anyway, I think I know what it said. Okay, also, we had a videography workshop with KET, and my idea was that they would actually do some videos to illustrate their poems, but kind of as it turned out, I was kind of crunched for time, so we ended up not doing videos. And I had one student do a video, but all the other students actually ended up doing PowerPoint presentations. And they actually, I encouraged them to use their own photos of their, off their phones, which was the time they got to use their phones in class, and to illustrate their poems with their own photos. So here's some. This is not from one poem. I just took some random slides off lots of different students' poems, so there's, you won't really see a continuity, but these are just some random slides. I'll just let you all read them. Or actually, I'll read them. I am from the small neighborhood with people as close as family. I am from wearing the same shoes my whole life, Converse All-Star and work boots from John Deere. I am from beautiful big mountains and four-wheeler riding, from mud flying as I ride my four-wheeler. I am from family gatherings at the lake. From sitting in hard wooden desks to sliding across the slick gym floor. From four-wheeling in the woods to watching Friday night football. From dirt tracks and drag races to knowing everybody. I'm from where Mama's gravy and biscuits is the best thing money can't buy, where people come together when a loved one dies. Okay, and all those pictures were my students' photographs. The next thing we did, we had Appalachian lit circles, and the question I had them consider was, we focused heavily on setting, although we did kind of, cover other literary elements as well, to answer the essential questions. How does a sense of place reflect in literature? And how does a sense of place become part of who we are? And these are pretty typical lit circle roles, if you've ever taught lit circles, but the idea with lit circle roles is that in a discussion group, each student has a job each week to focus on that particular aspect. And I did kind of tweak I found kind of a template, but I kind of created my own role sheets that focused more on setting. And so those were the role sheets we had: the scene setter, character connector, the plot pilot, the language liaison, and a real-world reporter to make connections between local things going on. Okay. And to start off, we had Same Sun Here was one of the novels I had a group do. They read novels based on their interest, but also somewhat on their reading level as well. But Same Sun Here was novel that Silas House co-wrote with Neela Viswani, and it's a epistolary novel, which is an exchange of letters between a young boy from Kentucky and a teenage girl who is of Indian descent who's living in New York City. So it talks a lot about this sort of a cultural exchange. Okay, and then for the future, we talked about what efforts can be made to revitalize Appalachia, specifically Eastern Kentucky, and also how students can be involved as citizens to contribute to cultural change. A lot of my students are really big Trump fans, and they had the idea that as soon as Trump was inaugurated, that all the coal jobs would just come right back, and they don't have always a very realistic idea of how the economy works. We had a visit from our state representative, Angie Hatton, after reading and viewing some informational text and videos. One was a series called, I think, The Unheard Story of Coal. And then there were several articles. Oop, my time's almost up. And then at the end of the unit, we had students write letters to local government officials. And most of them chose Angie Hatton since she had come to our school. Do I need to stop? Okay. Okay, so here's the video we watched. And it was in 3 parts. Oh, no, it doesn't play. It's just a picture. Okay, that's my Google Classroom, some of the articles we read. I believe one of those was shared by, I think maybe saw that on the holler. It was about the high-tech greenhouse that was coming to Pikeville. Okay, there's Angie Hatton with some of my students. And these are some of the common themes in the letters that they wrote about. And some excerpts from some of their letters. Okay. Some of the challenges of my project that was really big in scope, which I'm really bad about doing, and it depended on a lot of other people, so everything I had originally planned didn't get to be worked out with because of scheduling and timelines. We actually haven't done our Skype with the author yet. We're still supposed to do that in a couple of weeks, so that's something we're going to kind of pick back up on. Also, my students didn't get to read the Lit Circle books as fast as I had planned in class, so I had to let them do a lot of outside reading, which a lot of that didn't get done. But anyway, go ahead. Some other good things happened, though. My 9th grade class happened to be part of a Gear Up class, and some of the things that they were doing, some of the leadership opportunities coincided really well with some of the future aspect of our project. And I also had an opportunity to participate with one of those classes in a cultural exchange, and we exchanged Where I'm From poems with an inner city school outside of Boston, and we had an online discussion through Google Classroom with them. And just commenting on each other's poems. They were a very diverse, a lot of immigrant students, and so we kind of discussed, each other's poems, and it was just a good cultural exchange experience for my students. I think that's about it. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up really quickly. I've already over my time, but anyway, I thought that my project went pretty well. There were a lot of things I'd do differently next year, but I definitely would like to teach this unit again with my future students. Thank you.